Former Minister of the Environment of Ukraine, Yuriy Kostenko, commented on the issue of the likelihood of the United States of America withdrawing its nuclear arsenal from Europe. Regardless of how trade and political relations between the US and Europe are currently developing, the European Union views Trump's rapprochement with Putin as a threat to its own national security, he emphasized in a comment to Glavred. The expert believes that Putin's behavior towards Ukraine, despite the fact that Russia was one of the signatories of the Budapest Memorandum, could be repeated towards EU countries. First of all, this concerns the Baltic countries as well as the states of the former socialist camp, which have been repeatedly confirmed by statements by Putin and Russian propagandists, he noted. The former Minister of the Environment of Ukraine believes that despite all these factors, the United States, even under the presidency of Trump, who represents the policies of the Republican Party, greatly values the alliance with Europe, because it allows it to reduce the global influence of China, which is now becoming a superpower in the international arena. A weakening of the US presence in Europe automatically means a strengthening of China, particularly in the European Union, which is contrary to America's geopolitical interests. If this balance is upset, it will primarily hit the geopolitical interests and positions of the US, he said. The interlocutor is confident that the withdrawal of US nuclear weapons from Europe, which really does restrain Russia from active military action against the EU, will be a disaster for Washington. At the same time, it should be taken into account that although the combined nuclear potential of Great Britain and France is insufficient to fully contain Russian aggression, it still plays a significant role, Kostenko added. Earlier, Kostenko named the main condition for Ukraine to develop nuclear weapons. The best option for Ukraine would be to participate in an alliance with other countries, believes Yuriy Kostenko. You know that there are already hotheads in Ukraine, whose purpose? Returning to nuclear status. Given my knowledge and international experience in nuclear weapons, I can unequivocally state that Ukraine cannot overcome today's problems on its own to develop its own nuclear weapons. Firstly, there are no resources. Secondly, it takes a huge amount of time, and we are at war, he emphasized.
Putin went to church to pray for Trump after the assassination attempt, according to special envoy of the American leader Steve Witkoff. According to him, Putin also ordered a portrait of Trump from a famous artist and sent it to Washington. Trump was touched by the gift. This gesture was not only a demonstration of Putin's concern but also highlighted the friendship between the two leaders. When the president was shot, he went to his local church and met with his priest and prayed for the president, Witkoff said of Putin. This shocking development was highlighted in an interview with ex-Fox News anchor Tucker Carlson and did nothing to detract from suspicions of a pally relationship between Trump and Putin amid talks on ending the war, which many see as favoring Russia and harming Ukraine. Despite this, heavy fighting continued on both sides despite ceasefire speculation, as Russian shelling left a girl, 14, and her father dead in the Zaporizhzhia region, along with a woman, 38, while Kiev and Odessa faced thunderous attacks. Ukraine targeted Russia's Samara-Sergivsky explosives plant in drone strikes, along with an oil facility in the Rostov region, and Rostov-on-Don city where a high-rise tower was hit. A £25 million Russian Buk M1 anti-aircraft missile system with ammunition was blown up by a Ukrainian strike in the war zone, as seen on a new aerial video. Speaking of the Russian aggressor with reverence, Witkoff said, President Putin had commissioned a beautiful portrait of President Trump from the leading Russian artist, and actually gave it to me and asked me to take it home to President Trump.
The battalion commander of the 152nd Separate Jaeger Brigade of Ukraine with the call sign Monk spoke in an interview with U9 about the meaty assaults of the Russians whether the enemy's offensive has really slowed down, and how to create a combat-ready team of mobilized servicemen. The 152nd Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine began to form in the midst of a full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine in September 2023. Since September 2024, the 152nd Separate Chasseur Brigade has been fighting in the Pokrovsky direction. This is the same infantry that directly repels the meat assaults of the Russians. I have been in the army since 2014, starting in Debaltseve, but the greatest horror that I saw with my own eyes was 2022 to 2023, Soledar. It was there that I first encountered the meat assaults of the enemy, saw a real picture of them walking and walking like zombies. Since the fall, when the brigade received the strip in the Pokrovsky direction, the Russians have been conducting intensive meat offensives. This happened in the morning until 7, or in the evening when it grayed out, 4, 5 o'clock. The Russian Federation sent its soldiers not only in armored vehicles, but simply in cars, even Ziguli and Buchanka cars were used. They drove crammed, packed with their infantry. They tried to reach, but nothing worked for them. We put them in packs, and they continued and continued. Now, in the spring, they have already slowed down, Monk says. He tells that just a couple of weeks ago, Russians stopped going on assaults. Sometimes they try to run over in small groups of 2 to 4 people, but we still detect and destroy them, mainly by hitting them with FPV drones. Now in the area of responsibility of our brigade, there is a piece of land where the Russians need to run from one landing to another. We catch them there. Quite often, in this area, you can observe beautiful moments when they shoot themselves, he added. It seems that they are so zombied that they are afraid to surrender. So he runs away, and although he is still alive, he understands that he can go no further, neither to the right nor to the left, nor forward, and there is no way back for him, and then he simply shoots himself, he told. We were on a recovery for about a month and a half, and when we were sent again to the Pokrovsky direction, when we arrived here, I thought that this road that we controlled and that I was talking about would no longer be ours, that there would already be fighting on this road, but the brigade commander told me, "Listen, come on, hide your pessimism and do your job." And you see, there was no massive enemy advance here. Overall, I think we're doing pretty well. I even promised one person that the Russians wouldn't enter the Dnipropetrovsk region. He added,